Okay, guys, so welcome to our newest webinar, 5 Email Marketing Techniques to Jumpstart Attendee Growth. I'm Jack Meredith, Head of Marketing at TicketBud.
Got Ben, Grand Poobah of Sales, also at TicketBud.
And so we're going to be going into email marketing techniques. Just to give you a fair warning, there's a lot more than the 5 that we noted. We kind of went overboard, so there's going to be a lot of good content here for you guys.
It's not a bad thing, though, you know.
Not a bad thing at all. So when this webinar is over, what should you do? 1, we want you to implement some of our list building tactics to grow your subscriber base. We got a lot of juicy stuff to go over. It's going to be awesome. Secondly, we want you to understand the importance of relevance in the emails you send. More on that later, but also very important. Finally, last part, we want you to create a killer email invitation for your next event. We're going to give you a lot of high quality tips so you can make actionable upgrades to your invitations that you're already sending. So before we dig in, just want to give a fair warning that this presentation is very meme heavy. If you don't know what a meme is, just give it a Google. You'll know what it is just because people use memes all over the social networks. So just to give you a warning, hopefully more of these memes hit than miss. It should be fun. All right, so let's get started. So let's first frame the conversation. Just because there's some, I think, common misconceptions for what people think regarding emails. And I just want to kind of clarify everything as we kind of set the tone for the rest of the presentation.
Sure.
So first thing I want to make sure that we all are aware of is that email marketing is not dead. There's a lot of people that say, hey, email's been around almost as long as the internet. It's dull, it's boring, everyone uses it. There must be diminishing returns, but it's not true. The data shows us that it's just totally false, especially when it comes to event marketing in particular. Just to throw you some stats your way, there's about 4.1 billion email accounts in the world today, expected to get up to 5 billion in 2018. The number of emails sent every hour is so huge that I don't even know how to correctly say that number, so I'm not even going to attempt to, but you can kind of catch the drift. And then finally, 99% of event planners, according to some studies, use email marketing in their event marketing campaigns. So it's pretty much a requirement in this day and age for your event to utilize email marketing.
I think one of the big things when somebody, if you've read an article or heard someone tell you that email marketing is dead, I think what they mean by that is that email marketing has become so oversaturated that so many people do it improperly that it's just seen as ineffective. And so doing email marketing correctly is still incredibly valuable. I think when you hear people say that, it's just too many people doing it incorrectly, so you should just try a new, hip, and up-and-coming medium. Email is not dead, especially when you do it right, which is what we're going to show you.
Definitely. So why is email marketing your best friend? Well, the first reason is that you own the channel. This is so important. There's a lot of social platforms out there that you can use, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram even now is one that's been coming up and coming. But the reality is that these platforms are able to change things. Yeah, they can change things on a whim. They can pull the rug from under you, so to speak, in terms of making you pay to reach more of your fans, so on and so on. With email, you own the channel. You get to control it. You get to see it, send the emails, and pay on a kind of ongoing basis. So it's very cut and dry in terms of what you're doing with your own platform. Number 2, your subscribers want to hear from you. Surprise, surprise. If a subscriber signs up for your list, they're saying, "Hey, I'm giving you permission to send me content. I'm interested." This is not true for a lot of the other marketing that your event might be doing. A lot of marketing in general is just interruptive. People are not kind of ready to see an ad for your event in particular. It's a lot harder to get someone's attention if they're not already interested. So email marketing, higher engagement for the win. Finally, number 3, the ROI is fantastic if done right. Key word here is right. Too often you can do email marketing and kind of do it haphazardly, and it's going to fall flat on its face. You are just not going to see the return that you might have imagined at first. So there's a lot of key things that you need to do that we're going to go over in the rest of this presentation to really nail this down.
So if email marketing is your best friend, what does that friend look like? Who is that person going to be? And so There's a lot of different email marketing tools and pieces of software that you could utilize, but we've narrowed it down to looks like 7 or so that you can see right here. All of these are really valuable tools. Some of them we use, but really it all depends on your the specifics of what you're trying to do. So, do you have a list, and if so, how big is it? How many events do you plan to organize over the course of a given year? How much money do you have to play around with? And then how many emails are you going to be sending out? Each one of these makes the most sense, depending on what options work best for you. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take an inventory of what your goals are and then see which of these pieces of software works the best for you. And a little Ticket Bud plug here if I can. When you're organizing your events and maybe choose to go with a software like ours, you can integrate a lot of these platforms with Ticket Bud. So you don't necessarily it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can use a lot of these tools together to sort of achieve all of the goals that you have for your marketing.
Definitely. And yeah, there's a lot of tools out there for email marketing, so it can get a bit overwhelming. But as long as you kind of understand what you got currently, you can do a bit of research and find the right solution for you. A lot of these guys have things like free trials, and you can try it before you buy it, so to speak. So you can get a taste for what each platform has to offer. Okay, so let's kind of jump into part 1 here, the good stuff. List building 101.
101, let's do it.
101. Before you kind of go crazy with building your list, the one thing you want to do is you want to think long and hard about the type of content you're going to send these subscribers. This isn't to say that you already have this content backlogged and ready to go, even though that's awesome if you do. But what I'm trying to say is that the content that you're going to send will influence how you capture these leads, especially on your website. So it's going to influence the copy, so to speak, and the CTAs. And if you don't know what CTA stands for, that stands for a call to action. So what is the action that you want your visitors on your website to do? In this example that we're showing, just to give you some background, this is taken from a big tech conference website. And what you see here is kind of a pop-up that they use on their own website when a visitor doesn't buy a ticket. So they don't purchase a ticket, but they still want to capture their email so they can continue to remarket to them. What makes this particular pop-up awesome is, first, it's very clear and concise. The design is great. It just really pops at you, and it looks like something that, hey, this is interesting. I might give my email there. It's very cut and dry in terms of what they want you to do. The call to action is also great. It's telling you exactly what you're going to get for this. They want you to keep you in the loop with the event. Super smart. It means a lot more than something that just says like sign up for this. That doesn't really provide any context to what you're doing.
Yep.
And then finally, it shows the benefits to what you're going to get if you do sign up. So you're going to get awesome promo codes, conference goodies, photos, blog posts, all this free stuff. People love free stuff. So the more you can kind of bake that into it, the better. Okay.
Nice. I like this meme.
Yeah, this is a great meme. I love Lionel. Lionel's awesome. Okay, so how to capture attendee leads on your website. So capturing attendee leads on your website is big just because we know that a lot of events, they're doing a lot of their marketing, and that marketing is bringing traffic to their event website. So why not do your best to capture leads there? The tool that we're going to be talking about a little bit is a great tool called SumoMe, which allows you to capture leads very easily, especially if you're using WordPress for your site, which typically a lot of events end up using. Regardless, you can also use it for any other external sites as well. So pretty much what SumoMe does is it offers a variety of these plugins that help you capture leads in a variety of ways without having to bring in technical help to get it all set up. It's something that you can do pretty easily just by following their instructions. And then what makes it awesome is that you're allowed to test different copy. You can integrate it with whatever email software you use. So let's say you capture an email through SumoMe's, one of their plugins, it automatically pushes it to something like MailChimp if you're using that. So you have it already in your list. So there's not any manual work on your end. And then finally, you get to see up all your stats in real time. So you can kind of do an analysis, see which copy works, A/B test messaging, to really get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. So we're going to run through quickly a couple of the plugins that they have just to explain different ways that you can capture leads on your website. So the first plugin that they offer is something called the Smart Bar. The smart bar, what it does, it's just a bar that sits on top of your website that reminds your visitors to join your email list. It's a simple reminder, not too much in your face, and it's not that annoying to where it kind of takes away from the experience of someone visiting and interacting with your event website. It kind of lives behind the scenes, and so that they can still read what your event's all about. And then if they want to, get more information before they leave, they can pop in their email, sign up, done. Really easy to do. And then if you want to check out this in action, you can go to our blog. We're using the smart bar as well, just so you can kind of take a look to how it looks on a site. Tactic number 2, pop-ups. So when I say pop-up, probably the first thought in your mind is, oh my gosh, no pop-ups. Pop-ups are terrible, they're annoying. I don't agree with that. Pop-ups actually work if done right. And SumoMe provides a tool that makes them right, and that they only show when your visitor is trying to leave the website. So you might see, you probably have seen this if you're on like an e-commerce site and you're buying clothes. A lot of clothing sites do this, to where you might be browsing around, and then as you're kind of leaving the site, a pop-up will appear saying, hey, why don't you take this discount? Same kind of logic flows into here. Like, you could do a pop-up where it says, like, why are you leaving? By the way, if you do leave, at least give us your email. We can send you some free content and promo codes along the way. So it's kind of like this last-ditch effort to get the email from these possible attendees so you can remarket to them later. Finally, for your website, tactic number 3 is the scroll box. It's very similar to the smart bar, except that it's a box that appears at the bottom of your screen. And the beauty in this plugin is that it only appears as your visitors are scrolling down your website. And so you can have it appear, for instance, after they go through your sales page on your website. So that's like a great spot to show this box, because it's pretty much saying, hey, you're engaged with this content. Why don't you give us your email? We can send you more of this awesome content that we know that you're already reading. So it's really smart in that sense. Okay, so beyond list building tactics for your website in particular, what else can you do to collect emails and build your subscriber list for future events? We'll run through these pretty quickly. First, gated content offer. This is great. So if you create something like an ebook or maybe a highlight video from last year, try hiding it behind an email form. It's a great way to get people to give you your email because they know they're going to get something in return. That's a big part to this. You want to give people value in return for them giving you something. Contests, another great option. We covered this in our past webinar that you can kind of watch through the links in the slides. But contests are great just because everyone that's entering your contest to win free tickets, you know that they have to express some type of interest in attending your event. So now you have their emails, now you can remarket to them. Some other cool ones. Email promo swaps. So this is getting on the creative side. Probably takes a little bit of hustle, but get in contact with similar events in your space and see if they'll trade lists. I mean, if you're a tech conference and there's another tech conference that's in the area, see if you guys can work together and switch lists, because those people are probably interested in your content and attending your event as well. Last two, finally, leverage existing lists. This is easy. So cross-pollinate with other lists you've already built. Dead easy one is taking the lists of your attendees from past events if you have them and compiling them into your subscriber list so you can remarket to them from there. And then finally, social engagement. So this is one that takes a little bit more manual work, but it's an easy one to do. So if you spark conversation with, let's say, one of your followers on Twitter, end it with asking them to sign up for your list. It's a direct engagement, so it's not as automated, but it can work wonders and continue to build your list from scratch. So these are all great tactics, and hopefully you can utilize them going forward when you're trying to build your lists.
Yeah, and so, I mean, once you've built your list, using these tactics that Jack just mentioned, the next step is obviously going to be turning the list into actionable emails. And so one of the key things that you need to be considering at every step of the email process is why you're sending the email. And the answer to that question should always be because the email is relevant. And beyond that, it's not just that the email is relevant, it's that it's relevant to your attendees or to the people that you'd like to be attendees. You can't just blast a list out to people with something that means something to you. It has to mean something to them. A good example is when you give somebody a gift, you're not giving them a gift that you want. You're giving them a gift that they want. It would be ridiculous if you gave somebody a gift that was an Xbox when you're giving a gift to your mom who wants flowers or whatever the case may be. You have to think about what they want, and it's the exact same thing with when you send an email. So just at all times remember relevance and try to think of the relevance from the perspective of your ideal attendee or your ideal customer. And so to give you an idea of what this looks like, we've got a nice little email here, and there's 5 parts to it. You could break it down even further, but these are really the good 5 to keep into mind when you're crafting your email. The first part is going to be the subject line. We don't go into too much detail about the subject line here. If you do a quick Google search, you can find all sorts of articles that go over what a good subject line looks like. But the idea is not only relevance, but as you can see from this one, a little bit of urgency, and then of course information. So why is this relevant to me? Well, there's limited amount of time for a conference that I've probably expressed interest in, and I need to act fast. It's going to get me to, at the very least, open the email and learn why I should act fast and what's going to happen if I don't. And when you open the email, these are the 4 key things you need to have in mind. An opener, highlighting benefits, expanding on those benefits, and then getting to the point of having somebody make the decision and actually buy or go forward with what you want them to do. The opener is really where you can be the most creative in my mind. It's where you either crack your joke or talk about something that is going to, at the very least, get the person to continue and read further. In this email that Jack received, you can see if you read the opener, it's nothing about really what the event's details are. It's just a little, joking, a little bit tongue-in-cheek of, hey, I want you to come to this event. As soon as you read, immediately it goes into the event itself. You don't want to take too much time getting into a lengthy monologue type of opener because you'll lose your attendee, you'll lose your customer. So you see the second paragraph just jumps right into, here's why you got to jump on the early bird pricing to our conference. It's going to be gone soon. If you can see, this highlighting the benefit is almost the exact same thing as the subject line. So it's a reiteration of the subject line, and it's also the core of what you want somebody to do. Assuming that you've actually gotten this person's attention and they're interested, you want to tell them a little bit more about what they're getting. Again, in this benefits section, you still want to be sure that you're not inundating people with unnecessary information. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this email, but this is actually a pretty short email. We've sort of crammed this into a slide, so even on a bigger screen, on a normal email inbox, it's going to be even shorter. So you want to keep it short. That's why we put this little graphic in the top corner.
Yeah.
And then lastly, once you've put it all out there, you need to give people the ability to act on it. If you tell them all about this cool stuff and it's just a link, sure, they might click on it, but a big button that says exactly what they need to do next is going to be pretty crucial. This was an email that Jack got. Jack, I don't know if you want to expand on any of this, but these are the things you should be looking for. You should be pulling people in, explaining why they should care, and then giving them a reason to go and do the next step.
Yeah, I guess to the call to action, if you read it, you know exactly what you're getting to kind of build off what Ben was saying. Grab your ticket at the lowest price now. Explicitly tells me what I'm getting. This is so much better than just saying something like, click here. That doesn't provide any context to what I'm going to go to on the next page. So always think about that. What do you want the recipient to do? And then say it explicitly in the call to action.
Right.
It's so easy, but so important at the same time.
And then if you think about, before we go to the next slide, if you just, with keeping relevance in mind, and we're looking at this subject line, the relevance is just about as much about timing as it is about messaging. So 24 hours left, there's your relevance. The the early bird tickets are about to be gone. The messaging then follows of what you're saving on and why that savings are so important. So relevance is also timing just as much as it is messaging. So that's a really good example of an email that's very targeted, very specific. And of course, yours will be different depending on who you're marketing to. But we have a few other email types that you can look at. The first is sort of that pre-sale. We call it the pre-sale trick. So if you have multiple events or a recurring event, or your event's annual, at the very least, once the event ends, you could send an email out immediately after that offers a discount. This engenders loyalty and value from people that attended the event because they feel like they're being looked after, and then it also gets people in this routine of once an event ends, the next one is already starting. So it's a good way to keep your cycle sort of continuous. Second is special announcements. So if you've got something really cool you want to share with people, make it its own unique email. The big thing though is make sure that it's actually important enough to matter. This, again, plays into the relevancy side of things. We see a ton of organizers that share a special announcement that just isn't that interesting, and it's kind of hard to tell them that, but you got to be honest with them and tell them that this is an email that people are going to see as spam. They're not going to see it as important to what they're trying to do. So make these announcements. They're crucial, but make sure that they're interesting. Big headliners, extra speakers, things like that. If you have a lot of little things and you think, well, I got all these little tiny things, I might as well blast them out into one big email, maybe look at something like drip lineups and drip agendas, which is the third thing. So, whether, and again, I guess I should reiterate, even if these are little, medium-sized, big-sized, even if you've got a bunch of special announcements, the idea here from this third email type is to spread them out. You do not want to just use one email to be this super badass email, but you can only use it one time because it limits the amount of contact you can have with your attendees. So with the drip campaign, you want to be spreading things out. If you've got benefits to your event, make that 3 or 4 emails instead of one with 3 or 4 points.
And just to add to that, a great example to kind of visualize this in your head is take like music festivals, for instance. Some music festivals will just release their lineup all in one fell swoop, but others you'll see that they'll kind of release it over time. So they might release like the smaller acts first, and then over time they release more emails highlighting the headliner. So that's a great way to kind of separate those emails out to where you're constantly engaging with the subscriber list.
Right. And for those that are listening thinking, well, I don't have a music festival, so I don't have the draw of a small act and then these big headliners. You probably do. I mean, the people that are going to a music festival are going for the artists, so why are people going to your conference, your whatever? So figure out what your small and medium and big headliners are, and then do the drip campaign like Jack mentioned. The next one would be sort of a benefits blowout. So this sort of falls between that urgent email that sort of you got to do this now, and then the announcement email that we just mentioned, and it's just sort of a well-designed but also relevant and engaging email that makes people, gives people a better idea of why they should attend the event. It's not necessarily, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not your go-to email, but it is something that you can use to sprinkle in whenever you need to keep people, up to date on what's going on, and just prevent that, that dull drag that happens, in between emails. If that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Definitely be smart about this. You obviously don't want to kind of rehash stuff that you've already sent your subscribers. But yeah, you want to kind of avoid radio silence, but at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm people with emails all the time. But this is a good idea to use in case that you don't have any big announcements. This is a great option as well.
Sure. And then the last one's kind of an interesting one. I won't call it a hack, but I do think it's a pretty creative way that a lot of people might not think to do, and that's using important updates to drive some sales. And so these updates aren't necessarily as marketing-ish as the top 4. They're more meant to go out to attendees and tell them here's directions, here's last-minute changes. And the idea here is that for your attendees that wait till the last second, which for a lot of events is the majority of their attendees, they don't really care about a special announcement or a big benefits email. What they're honestly waiting for is, how late can I wait until I actually make the commitment? So this email doesn't even really necessarily say, get your tickets now, check out all these cool features. It just says, hey, the event's going on, here are the details about getting there. For a lot of people, that's when they say, oh, crap, this event's about to happen. I need to get on it. And so from an urgency standpoint, it sounds counterintuitive, but from an urgency standpoint, just giving information that typically goes to people that have already bought tickets and that that you normally send out a day before the event is actually a really good quote unquote Hail Mary to generate last second ticket sales. We've seen this to be pretty effective. Make people think that they're running out of time, and they'll act on it.
Definitely. Okay, so part 3, creating a killer email invitation. So kind of backtracking here, you've built your email list, you've gained all these subscribers, you kind of know the types of emails that you want to send, but we want to kind of laser focus here on the one important email, which is the invitation. As Keanu says, when you realize you send an email to the wrong person, it's going to be a big failure.
Oh, Keanu.
So with that, Keanu. Did I pronounce that wrong?
I think we both.
I'm sorry, Keanu.
It's okay.
Anyways, if your invitation isn't targeted, it's going to fail, plain and simple. And what that might seem like obvious, but you got to think about that if you're building a giant list. You might be able to segment your subscribers to where they're getting targeted invitations that are more relevant to certain segments in your subscriber base. So, example here, let's say you're organizing a national expo that you've been generating all these leads through all your list building tactics. And then later on, you're organizing the same type of event, but on kind of more of a local setting. So it's a much smaller event over kind of the same topics that your expo is on. What might make sense here is to do some geolocation and only send invitations to the people that are in that area rather than all the people that signed up for more updates on your national expo. So that's kind of an example of thinking creatively to make sure your messaging is targeted, because the worst thing that can happen is you send an invitation to people that aren't going to attend and then they unsubscribe.
And I can add something to this, and this goes back to the relevancy thing that we talked about. Like I said, I'm the grand poobah of sales, and so when I have sent sales emails in the past, I've tried A/B testing, or we've tried A/B testing our team, where we send an email to somebody that's a very generic email, and then we send the exact same email, but instead of just a generic opening, we figure out the city that they're from, and we say, how's the weather, or something as basic as how's the weather in, and then enter city. And the open rates skyrocket, because as soon as you mention something that they think is relevant to them, they're going to give you a little bit more listening time, or they're going to give you more they're just going to give you more attention. So to Jack's point, geolocation is a great idea because it shows relevancy, and it shows most spam is not going to do that. So it definitely differentiates you from a lot of the other emails people are getting.
Definitely. And then just quickly in this particular slide, there's a great piece that you can read on how one company partnered with MailChimp to do geolocation. It's pretty neat to see how they thought about it in terms of promoting relevancy to their certain segments within their subscriber list. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of creating a killer email invitation.
Yeah.
First thing you got to think about is, what's your value prop, and how can I explain this as clearly as possible to get people to buy tickets, right? This is super important. This is kind of like the foundation of your invitation. Don't just inform, like we've said in the past slides. Communicate the benefits in attending. Don't communicate why you think your event is cool. Really think about what's going to make your event cool to the people that you want to attend.
Relevancy.
The devil's in the details. Ben, I know you got some stuff on this.
This is a great example of what we've been talking about so far. I mean, your invitation might look different, probably will look different. You could also copy this. That's not a bad idea. The main thing to take away from this is that with this invitation, they get right to it. They go ahead and explain, what the attendee can expect by attending, and then they don't go a sentence over that. Once they've explained what the attendee can expect, they go right into the location, the date, the itinerary, the parking. What a lot of times you'll probably run into is you sort of have the urge to go on and on and on about your event, because to you your event is awesome, and I'm sure it is. But what you really want to do is just be very you want to whittle it down to what attendees are going to care the most about. So if you find yourself getting 4 or 5 paragraphs into your email invitation and then you're mentioning the directions, you should probably delete about half of that. So you need to and have someone proofread it, because someone that's not associated with you will tell you, I didn't even get past the second paragraph. So definitely be short, but also be thorough, and then when you're done, be done and move to the information.
Next step to think about is the call to action. We totally recommend to stick to one call to action, just so you direct the recipient's attention to the one thing that you want them to do, which is to buy tickets. There's no reason to link to anything other than your ticket sales page. So don't, drop a bunch of links to like certain blog posts that you wrote, or your like Facebook profile. Stuff like that you can kind of use in your other marketing channels, but for your invitation, you have one thing that you want to accomplish, and that is to get people to buy tickets. It seems so simple, but so many emails that I've seen kind of don't do this. In this example, I really like this email just because the design is really nice. It's clear and to the point. The CTA, RSVP, it's very big. You can click it and get to where they want you to go. So think about design your emails in this sort of way to where it's very easy for someone to do what you want them to do. Plain and simple.
And so we've shown you a couple of really good examples of what invitations look like, and you're probably thinking, there's no way I can do that. Like, I'm not a designer. I don't know how to handle any of this. For those that are designers, great. This is probably the most fun part of what you do with an event. But for those that aren't, don't freak out. I'd say 90% of the organizers that we talk to aren't designers by trade. But that doesn't mean that their invitations can't still be awesome. So if you're selling tickets online, namely through a company like TicketBud, we'll provide you with tools to create a snazzy email invitation. There's a lot of other companies you can check out. Paperless Post is a really good one to check out. I believe that a lot of these three here are Paperless Post, I think. Mm-hmm. But the idea here is that if you're spending the majority of your time freaking out over what the invitation looks like, you're working too hard. All the hard stuff comes before this. And quite honestly, most of what you have in your head and what you've written will dictate what your invitation looks like. So don't freak out. There's lots of services you can use. TicketBud is one, Paperless Post is another, but don't stress over this. It should not be something that keeps you up at night by any means.
Definitely agree. Alrighty, so where to go from here? This is a quote that I found that I thought was super important to what we're talking about. Design like you are absolutely right, then optimize like you were wrong from the start. So what this means is that you can have all the assumptions in the world in terms of what your subscribers are going to want to hear about, what they're going to be clicking on. But reality is you got to test stuff and see what works and what doesn't, and then correct stuff as you go to make sure that you are optimizing your email marketing as you go on. It's pretty easy to accomplish, especially if you're using like an email marketing tool, just because they give you all that data that you can sift through. But really kind of test your assumptions. Test our assumptions as well. I mean, your attendee base better than anyone else. So think outside the box, try new things, and see what you can do to get people to be engaged with your content and ultimately buy tickets to your events. So just to kind of go over what we talked about. One, you want to implement these list building tactics to grow your subscribers based on what we had talked about in part one. Two, test out these trigger-based emails that Ben went over and really analyze the engagement. See what people are interested in, what they're clicking on, what type of subject lines are working and what isn't working, all that good stuff. And then finally, send your next event invitation with our tips in mind and see how it does. Again, analyze what you're doing, see what's working. With TicketBud's invitation system, for instance, you're going to be able to see everything from your clicks, the open rates, all that good stuff to where you can make good decisions in regards to your email invitations for your next event. Okay, so that is the end of the webinar, guys. Thank you so much for joining. As always, please shoot me or Ben questions with any feedback, comments, anything regarding email marketing. Let us know. We'd love to help you guys out, see what you're doing, all that good stuff. My email, jack@ticketbud.com, ben@ticketbud.com. Pretty easy stuff. We'd love to get your feedback on how you like the webinar and also what type of topics you'd like to see us cover in the future. We love talking about event marketing just because we feel like it's a hard problem that a lot of event organizers have. But if there's other stuff that you'd like to hear about, we have a pretty wide range of expertise in this area. So shoot us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.